What I wanted to share with you guys today is something so profound, and it has to do with ayahuasca. I would like to say that ayahuasca taught me this in an indirect way. And from my experience with ayahuasca, I've been working with her for 5 years. I've kind of come to an end of that whole chapter and season. So again, this is just my perspective from working with ayahuasca for about 5 years, my perspective alone. And it has to do with the addiction to toxic relationships, the addiction to toxic ways of relating that gave me a sense of safety and security in the past. Let me first off say that I understand we are all on our own journey. We're all learning here. We're all in our own particular stage of development and growing, and we all have our own specific challenges. And I have so much compassion and empathy for all the lessons that I've got to learn from other people, whether they were trying to teach me things or not. So what I learned about ayahuasca, one of the things I've learned that I'm going to share with you today, are these addictions in relationship to people that she was not going to fix, that she was not going to solve for us. And I say this because of working with ayahuasca for about 5 years. You know, I've met people in the community, all beautiful people, courageous people on this journey of healing. However, I have noticed that some people have been on this path way longer than me. And I mean way longer. And when it comes to toxic ways of relating, unhealthy, dysfunctional ways of relating, pretty much all of us in that community are in that circle working with ayahuasca to heal from all of this trauma that we experience, all of this dysfunctional ways of relating that we've experienced with other people. So we've all been through our own share of hard times, childhood trauma, and we're all in that community to heal. But what I've witnessed is there are people who've been in that community working with the medicine for decades, and I mean decades. And again, I'm not attacking anyone. I'm just saying this as someone who observes, who witnesses, who just takes notice of my surroundings and people's behavior. But I do notice that addiction to toxic ways of relating, to contempt, to shaming, ayahuasca does not address that. And it's weird because it's, in a way, it's like she teaches by contrast. And maybe this is not even ayahuasca that taught me this. Maybe it's my own soul that has taught me this. And I learned by stark contrast, by ayahuasca not addressing these addictions. She almost really highlighted all of the wisdom, experience, and knowledge that I've learned about relational awareness through people like Richard Grannon, through polyvagal theory, through Sarah Baldwin, through the Gottmans, Julie and John Gottman, who founded the Gottman Institute, which is about the science and psychology of relationship love, how to repair, all those things. Oh, this one's pretty dope. That's dope. Oh wow, this is new too. That's new. This is new. But what I learned outside of the ayahuasca community, all of these gems and my own soul teaching me about the addiction to that pattern, because it's a sense of safety, security, it's a sense of familiarity. And I talk about addiction because from my own personal experience and what I witness in everyone else is that addiction is the greatest obstacle to our true freedom. The greatest obstacle to our true freedom. Oh, here's another one I did. Glad to see this is still running. Yeah. Yeah, maybe I'll just sit here for now. But I've witnessed addiction to be the greatest obstacle to our true freedom, our inner freedom. It is the greatest ball and chain, or what we're bound to, that most people are not aware of, or maybe we are aware of it, but again, there's so many different addictions. I haven't made a video about all the different addictions yet, but there are addictions to feeling superior, addictions to the dopamine rush of a toxic relationship. There is addiction to the adrenaline and the cortisol rush through the drama of toxic relationships. There is an addiction to that story where I'm not safe, therefore I need to make people feel less than, which is contempt, which the Gottmans talk about quite in depth. There's an addiction to validation, right? Because that gives me a sense of safety and security, and therefore I am worthy, I am good enough, right? There's an addiction to people pleasing, to codependency. There's an addiction to manipulating because it keeps me feeling safe. So there's so many different addictions, not even talking about, the substance addictions. So what I notice is that ayahuasca, from what I've learned and what I've seen, what I've experienced, is that she really helps with chemical addictions, really purging the body. So almost like really addressing our biology in a very deep way, but still tapping into an aspect of our spirituality. But I do notice when it comes to those very subtle addictions that people are not aware of, like I just mentioned, whether it be people pleasing, codependency, narcissism, manipulation, contempt, all of these toxic ways of relating, I've noticed that ayahuasca doesn't go there, simply because I've witnessed people who have been working with the medicine for decades and decades, yet are not even aware of that aspect of themselves. And it wasn't even ayahuasca that made me aware of the narcissistic tendencies, the codependent tendencies, the tendencies to be contemptuous. All of these were addictions that I've developed or had developed to make me feel safe and secure. And what I learned by ayahuasca, not addressing these addictions, in a way, by contrast, highlighting what I have been learning outside of the ayahuasca community, is that these addictions, relationally, could only be addressed by my own behavior outside of doing plant medicine. What I noticed is this is where chop wood, carry water really hit home for me. The day in, day out, daily decisions who I'm gonna choose to relate to, who I'm gonna choose to be compassionate with. Am I gonna be aware and conscious of my own tendencies to be contemptuous out of survival? Because all of those patterns are patterns of the victim. So even the addictive tendency it's alive and thriving. I wouldn't even call it thriving, but it's alive and active in our life because we are still operating on some level of survival, some level of not feeling safe in our bodies, some level of not feeling worthy, or some level of having low self-esteem, low soul esteem. All of this still ties back to the victim, to the wound, to the trauma. But the day in, day out, not being on plant medicines, not being on ayahuasca, is where I really found the most impact in my day-to-day life. It's like ayahuasca showed me a lot of things, but she never did show me that. She showed me other parts of myself, but she had never shown this aspect of me. And this aspect of me that was wounded and that would do this came through meditation. It came through reflecting in heartbreak. It came through just dark times of my life where I really reflected on broken relationships. So in a way, ayahuasca not addressing this, and then me seeing in the community how people working with ayahuasca for decades have not even addressed this aspect of themselves. And again, I'm not shaming them, I'm not guilt tripping them. God bless their hearts and their minds and their souls and their path. I have so much compassion for all these people. But this was a very important lesson for me to learn, because I started to see that this addiction is huge. This addiction is something that needs to be addressed in order for me to truly access my freedom. And again, I'm talking about addiction on this whole channel because really what I'm getting at is liberation, freedom. What I'm really driving home and helping people to seize and reclaim is this inner freedom that we're all born with. This inner freedom where we're not tied to unconscious behavior, where we're not chained and imprisoned by unconscious behavior of not feeling good enough, of not feeling worthy, of having low self-esteem. I am doing all of this to help people be free. And this is what has helped me be free. This is what has helped me be more compassionate for people. This is what helped me see this pattern, but also having a new level of discernment where I'm not going to engage with this type of relationship pattern, but I am going to be a master of time and space in my own experience, to where I create boundaries and I can still pray for these people. I can still have compassion. I can still send them love in prayer and meditation. And this has been so freeing for me, and I think it'll be really freeing for a lot of people here too. And if you are on the ayahuasca journey, I think this is something that will really help you grow in that experience. So one thing I noticed is that, with the addict, we don't have that sense of what is too much, what is too little, and also what is just poison from the start. That is something that we have to grow and learn and become conscious of. And regarding these relational toxic dynamics, which are addictions in my own perception, because we keep doing the same thing. It is pretty much like insanity as well, right? But we're all trying to source a sense of safety and security by doing these things. That's the same thing for like the substances. When we reach the substances, we're all trying to find this sense of safety and security. It's like a blanket of safety and security, but it's not real safety and security. Also, the other addictions, they're pain relief. So I get that. But this way of relating toxically to people or unhealthy and dysfunctional ways, narcissistically, being manipulative, and by the way, codependency and people pleasing is a manipulation tactic to seek validation, to seek worthiness, to feel good about oneself. It is an addiction. That validation, we get the dopamine hits, it is an addiction. It can be an addiction if we don't have that sense of what is too much, what is too little, and what is just not healthy at all. And this has been a really important journey, a really important lesson, and this is something that I feel all of you may really find some kind of help with. So again, let me be clear, I am not shaming anyone. I'm not saying that I'm better than anyone. I'm just simply stating a very deep lesson that I think will help free other people. Again, I've been there. I know what it's like. I know what it's like to not even be aware of that kind of behavior. But ayahuasca not addressing those addictions really highlighted what I've been learning outside of ayahuasca. And to be honest, I think it's just a part of my soul journey to experience these things, to share this for the sake of helping people like you get free, helping you understand addiction from a much deeper, holistic level. Anyway, I'm just kind of checking out to see what was still left as far as things I've painted, like this piece right here. I painted this a while ago. And look at what is the new artwork that has been thrown up lately. Super rad place, really close to my house. And I do need to start painting a little bit more. It's been a while since I painted. But I hope what I'm sharing with you reaches your heart, because this is what really changes the world. It's our day-to-day actions. It's our chopping wood, carrying water day in and day out. Ayahuasca, I realized, was not going to get me out of that toxic relationship. Ayahuasca was not going to get me out of that abusive relationship. I realized ayahuasca was not going to get me to stop relating in toxic ways, whether it be contempt, whether it be people-pleasing, whether it be manipulative. I've encountered a lot of this in that community, and we're all human beings. And the same goes for the church. So this is why I'm speaking about this, because I've been in so many different worlds. I've went through so many different dimensions, like being in a men's group, in a Christian church, and then realizing that even Christ, Yeshua, if you don't understand the deeper meaning and the myth, and depending on how you're perceiving the story of Christ, you will miss that. That's not going to prevent you from relating in toxic ways as well. It doesn't make you exempt from relating as a narcissistic person, as a codependent person, as a people pleaser, as someone who is very contemptuous, as someone who's very manipulative. In fact, I've seen it just as prevalent in that community as well. Which is why I created this channel, because from all the places I've been, I started to understand that there's something deeper that we're missing here. And this is what I'm trying to share with people. And I'm not saying that ayahuasca is bad or ayahuasca doesn't work, and I'm not saying that Christ is bad or Christ doesn't save people, because I do believe, there's a time and place and circumstance and context where all of that really does come together and help people be free. But what I'm trying to address is the nuance in all of this that really sets people free, that really helps people understand their freedom. And addiction is by far the biggest obstacle that I've come to see people struggling with, which is why I'm doing what I'm doing here. Anyway, I hope this hits you deeply in your heart. You guys have a beautiful, kick-ass day.